Good evening and welcome back to the Angercast and No Man's Sky Chronicles. When I went away to college in the fall of 1993, I traveled to a school over 600 miles away from home. In order to do that, I was going to have everything I needed to survive. That meant taking a shit ton of stuff packed into the covered bed of my dad's Dodge Ram pickup truck with just enough space for me to slide in and out of a me-shaped hole a couple of times over the course of 12 hours. Wasn't the greatest of ideas. And after 4 months, I transferred to another school about 25 miles away from home. Clearly, I had learned my lesson, and I didn't need to pack everything for this hour-long trip for which I would be coming home most weekends. Of course not. I still packed a single dorm room to the gills. Then, during the summer of my sophomore and junior years, I spent 3 months working in an amusement park nearly 4 hours away. And yes, you guessed it. I never learned, and I packed everything up again, and my parents paid the price literally and figuratively. But by the time I got back from my first summer sojourn, I learned exactly what I needed to get by on my own at school. In 5 years of college, I never moved out of the dorms. It was the best decision I ever made. First of all, I didn't need to worry about roommates, the two-legged or multi-legged variety. The area apartments were nothing if not short of needing condemned, and the last thing I wanted was to have rats or roaches as non-paying residents. The dorms, they were furnished. The bed and the furniture supplied, and they were all I needed for myself and perhaps any guests I had over. I had a mini fridge, a black and white TV, microwave, and a hot pot along with all my toiletries. That was pretty much all I needed. There wasn't a need for multiple rooms or floors because, quite frankly, I'd never used them. Yes, I had to share a bathroom with 26 to 30 other guys, and well, I didn't have to clean it, though, and I didn't have to stock it. The rest of campus was my apartment. I ate in the cafeteria or a little food court. All of it was rolled into my meal plan and part of my tuition. No need to buy a crap ton of food. And outside of what I ate for lunch and dinner, I only needed a few boxes of cereal and maybe some mac and cheese, some top ramen, and some snacks. Unfortunately, after college, I felt this need, or at least I was led to believe that I needed to acquire things as a homeowner. Things I will never use more than once. Things that sit in an attic or the garage or shoved into some room somewhere, never to be seen until something goes wrong, and I have to pitch a lot of damaged or broken items due to some catastrophic event. I'm starting to get better because mainly I see what lies ahead of myself and my siblings when it comes to my parents. That house is going to be a ridiculous amount of hoarding to go through. Still, at some point, while I have time and energy to enjoy it, I'd like to be able to build or move from my current house that I deem a starter house because I never meant it to be a forever home. I intended it to be a place I would fix up and sell after raising a family and saving enough money. Well, I'm halfway on one, on my second attempt on the same one, and nowhere near complete on the other. Now, in the world of gaming, my first attempt at ever building a house was in Minecraft, and was pretty much indicative at the loss of my imagination and creativity as an adult. The only defense I have is that I began playing back in the days of Beta 1.3. Upside down stairs were not a thing, and if you broke a stair, aka roofing, it was gone forever. And there were no corners there to make it look all nice and pretty. So my house, consisting mostly of stone walls and cobblestone steps for a roof, was pretty sad. I didn't even have windows. I would go in there and just store all my resources. I made connecting tunnels to other parts of the area, including my first place of refuge, the dirt house, the Minecraft equivalent to living in a cardboard box. Now, since then, I have built many bases, but I've always struggled when it came to building a house. And usually that's the thing we want to build in Minecraft, and even now in No Man's Sky. I mean, we all geeked out over the prospect of building that dream base we all envisioned in our life, to find that spatial proportions that made it look like a sad Barbie dream crack house. On subsequent worlds, especially ones I've recorded, the house was either a requirement, for instance say in Skyblock, or a nicety to show off whatever building skills I thought I possessed, but in reality, a house in a game like Minecraft is never really a functional space. It's more for show, and oftentimes it's a pain in the ass to even have one, causing you to traipse up and down these stairs to get to your bed in order to quell the banging of monsters outside your door, or to store all your extra gubbins in storage areas. And at one point I condensed everything into an area that, disregarding chests for all your shit, would be roughly the equivalent of a 6x6x12 space. That takes in account a second floor containing the enchanting table and bookshelves. The bottom would have a stacked crafting table, furnace, brewing stand, all to a bed next to an anvil and a cauldron. Granted, you would be highly visible and vulnerable to any monsters that followed you home, run the risk of not being able to sleep because they are nearby. And also, if you're not very careful, you could end up waking up outside your home if you place your bed too close to a wall. I guess I never saw the need or desire to build a house because I never saw so much wasted space. It never had any use other than to look pretty from the outside, and everything inside would be so far apart and an inefficient use of space for a game such as Minecraft. For any game that involves building, adventuring, or exploring, inventory management is the furthest thing from fun. Every episode I record for Skyrim involved me taking a good hour to travel back to Whiterun to drop all my stuff out, switch out gear, and stock up or sell items. There's about a 50% of the experience you've never seen, because it's just boring and usually involved at least one instance where I accidentally took everything out of a bag or chest, which caused me to have to curse and cry and start all over again. And a game like 7 Days to Die took so much time to sort my inventory, you only had so much daylight or night to do it before you needed to get to whatever you were doing before the next horde, which took all of your focus. But I always felt in a game like Minecraft that there was a great use of mods or automation, was a way to get everything dropped into a central location to be sorted into storage and then recalled when I need it, without much of a mundane task of searching through every chest or walking up and down steps to find where I put that thing I needed for the thing. I get that there is a mod that has a computer that can hold all of your items and allow you to craft on the fly. That's cool and all, but unless you're playing with mods, it doesn't help anything. And other mods allow for pipes for sorting, but those are usually resource heavy, causing lag, especially on my piece of shit computer. It also solves a problem, but it leaned more heavily on function following form. These industrial-looking engines and pipes stand out as a stark contrast to the environment of Minecraft, which is supposed to exist like in nature. Now, if you were building a modern-looking city that relies on a lot of electricity or metal working or concrete, well then yes, these machines and engines and macerators and whiz-bang gadgets that automate the process would be appropriate. However, I'd like to see ones that would match the era of technological evolution a game like Minecraft sets itself in. You see, in the ancient city of Petra, you know, the one that inspired the end scenes of Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail, or in The Last Crusade, where the Holy Grail was kept, there was this complex piping system using math and terracotta pipes to transport water from a source over 3 miles away. If you could demonstrate through crafting functional machines from clay or sand or other primitive materials as a way to solve problems a game like Minecraft presents to you without deviating from the aesthetics of your progression and surroundings, I would be all for that. But simply playing for 10 minutes, building a dirt hut, and then constructing metal machines that run on electricity just seems to bring me out of the immersion of such a game. After all, ancient civilizations had irrigation systems and even piped methane gas to nearby settlements which were far superior in their design compared to their relative place in history. Fully fleshed out and functional water wheels instead of a block that generates RF would be astounding, but probably lag-producing. But I have truly gone off track because those are solutions to a different problem. The Minecraft house is such an impractical structure in my opinion because it doesn't do anything except protect us from the dangers of the outside, something a dirt hole could do. It's a status symbol without the benefit of bragging rights because it isn't earned or any differently whether you work all day mining for precious resources or just dig up some rocks, chop down some trees. It's all about imagination and design, and maybe that's its saving grace. It exists as a testament to the lazy builder's creativity, not the development of a player in the world. I'm just a stupid one who feels he can't be bothered either because I'm too lazy or not creative enough to embrace it. But since base building became a thing in No Man's Sky, It's kind of been more of a distraction than an integral part of this game. Think about it. What purpose does a base serve in No Man's Sky? Shelter? Well, you spend 80% of your game in a ship flying around. The time you do spend on a planet is for exploration or gathering. Any shelter you need is likely because you're on a planet with adverse conditions, so you retreat underground or towards your ship. And resources. It makes more sense to make a simplified base on every planet with rare or valuable resources and then just portal to them when you need it. I remember spending a ridiculous amount of time doing these base missions, then doing them again, and then again, only to have my base removed with the next update. I mean, the farming aspect was neat, but not really very profitable unless you expand it to a larger operation, and then it becomes unmanageable unless you multiplay. Cool aesthetics? Yes, this is the main reason. Again, the only reason to build a house in any game that gives you some form of creative control over the process is to build something with some kind of aesthetic. And No Man's Sky has a very cool 70s retro sci-fi look to it. Those of us who grew up in the shadow of Flash Gordon or Speed Racer remember the original Ralph McQuarrie artwork from Star Wars that has this exposure to a definite style of futurism with specific colors and shapes that we saw in games like Prey. And No Man's Sky plays into that motif with the shapes and the architecture available to us with the planetary backdrops. I've always had this affinity for space and science fiction. Movies like Blade Runner, The Black Hole, again, Flash Gordon, or Logan's Run were favorites. Artwork from McQuarrie or Chris Foss, and that's another big one. I was a big lover of the 70s and 80s space Lego sets, too. In fact, a recent episode of This Old House I saw featured a guy wearing the space logo from the Lego series, which made me geek out wanting to get one. And a movie like James Bond Moonraker, well, as bad as that was another favorite in that cheesy operatic space motif versus the 50s and 60s black and white space style. For me, it wasn't steampunk, it was that retro-futuristic look. But the real problem with base building is that it sucks up so many cycles to complete these quests to build these bases, and quite frankly, like other games, bases in No Man's Skies aren't practical. They're cool. Yeah, you need rooms for certain things, mostly storage, as No Man's Sky should have been called No More Room, an inventory management simulator. No, on my first go-around with No Man's Sky, I hurriedly completed all of those quests surrounding the base building aspect because I wanted to A, complete the game, and B, build a damn base. I had these grand plans to get towards the core of the universe and find a nice temperate planet to move all my slapdash placement of structures to and then rebuild them. The original planet I was on that offered me a base was a cold tundra with weather was constantly fighting me, even indoors, to keep from freezing in some parts. And while I did all those necessary quests, twice, mind you, I just sort of plopped things down wherever I needed containers. I needed a place to store all my crap, but it became so much of a resource heavy to build all that stuff that you forget where other things are supposed to be, there, and you have no idea where you put everything, and then you go around forever looking at every single crate or storage unit, and you forget what you're supposed to be doing, especially when the Atlas update came out. And then everything in those containers became obsolete or no longer usable. Still, I can see where a base can be purposeful, but usually I just needed a spot for storage and a place for equipment. The constant wandering around looking for things when I need to grab something is wasteful, just like it was in Minecraft or 7 Days to Die. But still, the prospect of being able to construct a cool base in this genre with that motif is something I love and want to explore, if for no other reason than the photo mode alone, which, well, that's one of the updates that I do approve of, and while I still think it's kind of stupid in some games, here it works out great. But we'll talk more on that another time. Thank you for watching. Have a good night. Bye-bye.